Kevin Shaninger.
Yes.
And in Advaita, the absolute reality is said to be undifferentiated and unchanging.
Yes.
And it's also said to be Sat-Chit-Ananda,
Yes.
which seems differentiated.
Yes.
Three aspects.
Yeah.
How do those go together?
Yes. That's the best we can do in language. In fact, one understanding of Sat-Chit-Ananda is, okay, I'll give you two understandings. The grand, broad picture, which I love. The deepest questions we can ask, the answers to those questions are Sat-Chit-Ananda. One branch of philosophy which asks, what is real? That branch of philosophy is called metaphysics or ontology. And Vedanta has a grand answer to that. You can dispute it, but the answer is very bold and fresh. It is Sat, being itself. That is reality. How do we know anything? That's the branch of philosophy which is called epistemology. Because the moment you make claims about God, heaven, black holes, string theory, the next question will be, how do you know? So epistemology is very important. And how is knowledge possible? Vedanta's answer is equally bold. Chit, consciousness. And the third question might be, what's the point of it all? What's good? What's bad? What's beautiful? What's ugly? This study of values. There's a whole bunch of disciplines which, like ethics, aesthetics, they are clubbed together under a new name, axiology. And Vedanta has an answer to that. What's the point of it all? Vedanta's answer is, again, very bold and beautiful and sublime. Ananda, bliss, is the point of it all. Sat, Chit, Ananda answers to the deepest questions that humanity has posed. What is real? How do we know? And what's the point of it all? And the answer is Sat, Chit, Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Not only that, Vedanta goes further and says, these are not three, they are one. Sat, Chit, Ananda are one reality. It's called Brahman, limitlessness. And it goes further. The climax of Vedanta is, this Sat, Chit, Ananda, this Brahman is you. Tat Tvam Asi. Now, to your question, undifferentiated. It seems different, but the subtler understanding of Sat, Chit, Ananda is, by saying Sat, we negate the possibility that it doesn't exist. By saying Chit, we negate the possibility that it's an object. It's consciousness, not an object. That is not insentient, it's an object. It is consciousness. It is, poetically speaking, alive, lit up. And third, it is not sterile, it is not painful, it is not value neutral. It is ananda, it is bliss. And this is stated positively, but its deeper meanings are negative. It's to set aside certain possibilities. And so they are not three separate entities. They're not three aspects even. They're not qualities or properties of Brahman. It's the same thing. The best that we can do in language is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Beyond that, it is only silence. Yeah. All right. Should we wrap it?
Thank you, Swami. My name is Trent. I hear you on the untraumatized consciousness, the non-stick consciousness. What might you say to the mind separate from that consciousness that may be traumatized or steeped in resentment or fear and is comprehending the value and the truth in the separateness of consciousness and mind, but still having a traumatized experience, like the lens through which it views the world, the untraumatized consciousness is viewing it through a traumatized lens?
Yes. So what Advaita would say to that is, shift your identity from that mind to consciousness. That's why the final point I made was Atma, the self. This untraumatized consciousness, I am. So you say, I am untraumatized. Now something magical happens to the mind then. Even when there is trauma, even when there are shocks, there's an oasis of peace there. It's when we step back from the mind. What's terrible is the mind is traumatized and I am the mind. So I am traumatized. Notice, it's not so terrible when somebody else is traumatized because you are not that mind. You can be ready to help. You can be at peace and you might help out there. But when this mind is traumatized, I also say I don't say my mind is upset. I'm fine. I don't say that. I say I am mad at you. So I am utterly identified with the mind. What Vedanta wants us to do is to shift the locus of identity from the mind to consciousness. That's why I ended the analysis by saying, I am the light of our lives. I am without a gap. I am unchanging. I am non-stick. I am ever the same. I am untraumatized. I am. Own it up. Then you will see the mind. Will the mind get traumatized or not? It still might. The body might still get sick. But you have safety and security then. And you can deal with the sickness in the body much better than when we thought, I am the body. Sri Ramakrishna dying of cancer. Somebody asks him, how are you today, sir? But look at what he says. It hurts. I can't eat. It's exactly what a cancer patient would say. And then this person who asked said, but sir, I see that you're in great bliss. And Sri Ramakrishna approves. He says, oh, the rascal has found me out. You see through me. How is that possible? Notice, Vedanta, Advaita is not escapism. There are two ways in which you might not feel the bliss. One is the yogic way, where you merge your mind in samadhi and you don't feel the bliss. I don't feel the pain. You don't feel the pain because the mind is absorbed in samadhi. With the mind absorbed, you will not experience the world or the body, or you won't feel it. But that's like a spiritual anesthesia. Sri Ramakrishna is not doing that. He's feeling every bit of it. But he centers himself in his real nature and he says, perfectly all right. Another time, someone else was dressing the wound there. It's a big tumor, just a few weeks before he passed away. And it hurts if you put directly, if you touch that place. And he struggled in pain. And the person who was doing that, he was sad. He said, I can't do anything if it hurts you so much. What can I do? Sri Ramakrishna said, wait. A dying person, reduced to skin and bones. He says, wait. And then, fully conscious, he didn't merge in samadhi. He said, now do it. And then that person went and he shaved that portion and then cleaned the wound. No reaction. How is that possible? And yet it's not very difficult either. I mean, dealing with the pain of a terminal cancer and a tumor, that is difficult. But for smaller challenges, don't take the non-dual Ferrari out into 101. Drive it in the parking lot. Otherwise, yeah, take it slowly. And practical advice, not non-duality unsupported by anything else, supported by all practices. See, traditionally, all practices were accepted by traditional non-dualists. Karma yoga for purification of mind. Devotion for purifying the emotions. Many of our problems are not intellectual. We can grasp all this, but still be shaken by life. Problems are emotional, not intellectual. So the sublimation of the purification, sublimation of the emotions, bhakti, devotion. And then control over the senses and the mind, which yoga gives. There's an ancient saying, Sankhya samam jnanam nasti, yoga samam balam nasti. There's no knowledge like Sankhya and no power like yoga. So the Sankhya knowledge, I am the witness consciousness. What we did just now, except the last 2 points, the oneness and the non-duality, up to that point is all Sankhya. Advaita just borrowed the whole thing. So I am the untraumatized consciousness, ever shining, never non-stick, all of that. What happened? Why are you crying? Why are you upset? When the mind gets upset, you are upset. When there's a pain in the body, you yell with pain. What happened? I can't overcome it. I know the truth, but I can't do anything about it. What's the problem there? Is it that you don't understand it? You do understand it. You lack power. You lack spiritual power. I asked a very great Swami of our order, why is it that some enlightened persons, spiritually advanced persons, seem to rise above the body in the pains and travails of the body? And others, very spiritual, they can't. They still suffer and they struggle with when there is old age, disease, at the point of death. Vivekananda says, Vivekananda once said, men like the one who wrote this song, Dattatreya, keep religion alive. They have actually realized they care for nothing, feel nothing done to the body. Care not for heat, cold, danger or anything. They sit still, enjoying the bliss of Atman, and though red-hot coals burn the body, they feel them not. So I asked this very senior Swami, some can and some cannot. What's the difference? And he said the difference is not in realization. The difference is in Bengali he said, Khub pran shakti chai. There's a lot of power necessary, which comes from purification in yogic practices, to put this knowledge into, deploy this knowledge as far as this, say, a diseased, dying body is concerned. A person who has completed the course of sadhana can do it. Yeah. All right, should we